Instead of listening to the same songs every morning, put on a different podcast for 18 days. Youth with Voices, Romania.
Hi everybody, this is the 6th episode of our Youth with a Voice podcast prompted by an Erasmus Plus project with the same name. In this podcast we will be discussing topics that are relevant to today's youth and our personal experiences with them. My name is Riki and I am your host today, and my guest today is Cynthia, and together we are going to talk about diversity. Tell us something about yourself, Cynthia, please.
Hi Riki, I am Cynthia, I am 21 years old and I have just recently finished university and I am currently working, and I am really excited about today's topics that regard both the youth but also maybe some other generations as well.
As we said, the main topic of our episode is diversity, acknowledgement, acceptance and accommodation. What do these words mean to you, and why do you feel like this is a topic we should talk about more often?
Okay, so diversity as a general topic, regardless of context, is, in my opinion, really important, as sometimes we are not educated enough to deal with it, and that's how some conflicts are created. And yeah, that is mostly the reason why I care about this, because not only different people because of family backgrounds or as we, I think, all know, diversity is a pretty popular topic today, as social media and most big corporations try to get some revenue off of it. However, I think it's an important topic because as far as my generation goes, I don't think we have been educated enough to deal with diversity, regardless of context, meaning that diverse people because of gender, sexuality or disabilities. And that's how some people could feel marginalized and excluded. And sometimes it's not because we want to exclude them, it's just because we don't know how to interact with them. And I think it's really important to educate ourselves in order to be more inclusive and to be kinder to each other, because that's how we become kinder to ourselves as well.
Thank you. What type or types of people would you like to underline during our discussion today?
Okay, so I think if my friends would be listening to this podcast, they could bet an arm on the fact that I would be talking about gender and sexuality and diversity in these topics. However, today I'm going to pull an Uno reverse card on them, and I would like to talk about diversity regarding people with disabilities, be that mental or physical, or any kind of other disabilities that are invisible to us. And yeah, I think it's an important topic because today's companies and today's social media is really focusing on this diversity regarding the easier topics, which are still heavy, being LGBTQ people and their struggles. And sometimes we are forgetting about the rest of the people who are like racially diverse or, once again, disabled. And I think it could be really eye-opening conversation if today's youth would address this as well.
I love the fact that she told this wearing a t-shirt full of rainbow, which says The Beach Boys in rainbow. It's lovely.
Yeah.
And going back to the topic, I think this is a really deep topic with really, really fragile borders and a lot of different opinions. What I would like to ask next is that from my own experience, I have seen a lot of people to talk about this topic, disabilities, be that mental or physical, and some of them got really, really offended on behalf of the disabled people. Let's say so people with special needs. Do you think their attitude to protect these people is justified or not?
Okay, I don't know if I'm going to enter some controversial topics today with this, but I think getting offended on behalf of anyone is straight up bullshit. Because the fact that you express the fact that your feelings are hurt for other people will not fix anything in this world, and you may not have the right to do so. Because let's take an example. Let's say that I have a blind friend, and the said blind friend is making jokes about their disability because it's funny. Let's say we can make these jokes, we allow this in our friend group. The jokes are inclusive, we laugh with the said person and not at the said person. And then someone would come up to us and tell us that the jokes we are telling are offensive to them, even though they have nothing to do with blind people, and that we should be stopping. And I think that's offensive to the blind community or any disabled community. And I know that I am being a hypocrite because I'm saying I think something is offensive. But wait a second, I think it's offensive because we would assume that we should protect them. I think disabled people are fully grown humans, or at least somewhat grown humans, because we're still young, most of us. And I think we are fully capable of protecting ourselves, and if not, we are able to ask for help, or if not, we should learn to do so. And if someone thinks that they should just scoop us up like the Prince Charming on the white horse and save us from whatever problem we are struggling with, that person is under-evaluating our capabilities, regardless of abilities and background. So, yeah, coming back to it, I think getting offended on behalf of anyone, mostly disabled people, is offensive to them because we would assume that they are incapable of defending themselves and they are incapable of laughing at their own situation. And I think we should talk to them more rather than assume their opinions. If you want to know someone deeply, rather than assuming that you know that someone would laugh at this joke, ask them. If you want to know if someone would get offended by what you're saying, ask them. Trust me, they would appreciate much more being asked than you shutting up or you making an offensive joke. So yeah, that's my opinion on this one.
Do you have any recommendations in order for us to remedy our attitude or some issues from your point of view, maybe? Do you see any problems in particular that you think need remedy, or do you have anything in mind that could maybe set us on the right path?
Yeah, so I think there's some pretty basic concepts that we have grown up till now that can be applied to any situation, mostly with disabled people, and that is open communication, humility, and vulnerability, open vulnerability to some extent. So the open communication part is pretty straightforward. I think any kind of relationship, but mostly relationships who are closer, need this kind of communication, because even though some topics are not supposed to be talked openly because you may hurt someone, some other topics need a discussion because like that we can prevent someone getting hurt. And I think for disabled people, it would really be important for them to feel heard and seen, once again, rather than assuming things about them. And like this, they also get a chance to have a voice, because some people talk on behalf of other people, and like that, the people who actually need to be heard will be pushed to the background. So yeah, the first thing would be open communication. Then comes humility. Humility would be assuming that you know nothing. So be open-minded and wait for the person in front of you to talk before you assume who they are and what they represent, because one blind person or one person in wheelchair will not represent the whole community, and the fact that you have a friend in said community will not mean that you know everything. So be open-minded about it. And the last thing, vulnerability, would be that you can show emotions. So if you think someone is weird, don't try to pretend that that person is not. I think it's also really important to be vulnerable in the way that you can accept people getting mad at you while being yourself and accepting your mistakes. So, for example, first of all, there are two extremes in my mind. You can be on an airplane and you can meet a small person, a dwarf, and that's the technical term, actually, if you want to know, and as far as I know. And that person, you try to reference that person by their hair color, and there may be other people with that hair color, and you try to reference that person avoiding the main trait that they are defined by, which is their height. And I mean physically the main trait that they are defined by in your eyes, as far as you don't know them. And while you try to avoid talking about them being small, they may feel stupid because they know they're small. They have lived in that body their whole life. They haven't just shrunk overnight and realized that, oh damn, I am small today and I'm a dwarf. And you just try to be real with anyone. And if you hurt someone's feelings, rather than try to hide from the fact that you have made a mistake, apologize for it and ask to be educated. That's the kind of vulnerability I'm talking about. And yeah, I think these are three of the main things, and obviously respect the rest of the things that matter for other people. Basically, just treat them as any other person and try to be as respectful and as kind and open as you can be.
Can you formulate the 2 or 3 most important bullet points that you think are the best path for accepting these things, and just underline the 3 main ideas you think that are the main takeaway in order for our listeners to refresh their knowledge?
Okay, so 3 of the main points that I also think that are important is to be introspective. So the person that's standing in front of you, regardless of disability, is just as capable as you are. So whatever you can do, they can also do. And if you're not sure that they need help, just go and ask. Other than introspection, honesty, because you can look into yourself. Other than that, you can also educate yourself, because you may not have the chance to meet someone with a disability, but once you have educated yourself, you will already know some basics, how to act with them. And besides that, just be kind to everyone. I have had an idea previously that would not go for every basic human, that would rather go for the big corporations, but I don't think that it will be implemented anytime in the future. But I will tell a story regarding, not rather than a story, I would tell my opinion regarding this one. Because as we all know, in today's media, LGBTQ subjects, which are really relevant and really valid and important, are also making a lot of revenue for many big companies just because they are hanging a rainbow flag in their offices, which in some views can be healthy and helpful for some people, but in other situations it can be detrimental. However, that's not why I want to be talking about this today, but I would like to propose another approach as well. If we are talking about inclusivity, I think it could be really helpful to extend our inclusivity not only to sexually diverse people and racially diverse people, but also to people with disability. And I think it would be helpful for the big companies to offer ASL courses and other courses that help us be aware of other people's living situations, and like that we will be able to communicate without having the anxiety of hurting someone and without having boundaries between us that we impose by ourselves. Also, there was another topic that I really liked, where someone talked about disability in a way that if we are lucky and we grow old enough, we will be able to experience what disability feels like firsthand, because at some point, most of the people will be disabled, because old people are considered disabled because of various reasons. And if we don't act today, and if we don't get more inclusive today, we will be the ones silenced. And that way, it will be much harder to communicate with the outside world, so to say. And the topic regarding this one was about COVID and how disabled people reacted to it, because at some point there was a statistic where they said that only the old people and the disabled people were at risk anymore. I don't know in which country. And most of the population sighed in relief because they thought that it was over for them. And to be quite honest, I did the same, which was honestly rude, because we haven't considered the disabled people, because we think that if we can leave the house with an able body, be that an invisible disability or not, then everyone is okay, and the people who are still stuck in their homes because they're at risk don't suffer anymore. So yeah, that's why I think that we should act today, because at some point we will be part of that statistic and we will regret not taking action beforehand. So yeah, if you get lucky, you will be disabled. That was the summary of that video, and it was harsh and rude, but I think there is some truth to it. Okay, fejezd be nyugodtan, engem nem zavar, végezni, tudok dolgozni.
Thank you, Cynthia, for being here today. Thank you for your opinion. It was really lovely to hear it. And have a nice day, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
We really hope that you enjoyed our podcast. Have a great day.